Greetings everybody, this is Leviathan here, and today we're going to discuss whether the seasonal length should be shortened. And so the reason that we're discussing this is we're kind of getting to a point with Diablo 3 where it feels like we're in, that lovely term that people love to throw around, maintenance mode. And without updates coming to the game, it almost stands to reason that potentially we could look at changing some things around. If we look in the past, and the site that I'm referencing right now is d3resource.com. I'll throw a link to that in the video description so you can take a look and peruse for yourself. But this actually is a really great resource. It gives you a lot of the dates and information if you kind of want to be a historian of Diablo 3. And so if we look back at previous seasons, you can see when there have been PTRs and active development, content patches and things coming, there's usually, within the middle of a season, a PTR. And those things seem to be linked because essentially what happens is you need the season to be a certain amount of length in order to give the developers enough time to throw out a PTR, let the players try, test things out, make changes, and then kind of keep iterating a little bit, and then eventually the patch comes out and that'll be lined up with the next season, right? So we saw that same sort of cadence when it came from season 11 to season 12 with the huge change for 2.6.1. We got to PTR that one for quite some time actually, and then similarly with other previous seasons like with 2.4.3 and 2.5 and all that stuff. So what we have seen now, of course, though, is season 12 and the season 13 there was no PTR because we ran on the same 2.6.1. There was sort of that PTR for the background testing for them and doing what they did to help fight against the third-party programs and bots and such, but for the most part it looks like now we're not going to be seeing maybe major updates. We're in the middle of season 13, and about the time that you would expect a PTR to drop, there really hasn't been one. So it stands to reason that maybe season 14 will also run on 2.6.1, and there won't be a significant update when season 14 launches. So the hypothesis, the initial offering is, should seasons be shorter? They've been coming in around this 90-day period. You can see in season 12 was 94 days, season 11 92. That's about that 12 to 13 weeks that they told us they were aiming for, and they finally started to get there consistently with the last few seasons. But my thinking is that maybe it should just be 8 weeks. And the reason I throw that up, I have boom, notepad guys, super high production here. But the reason I think about 8 weeks is there's a few pros to it, right? It gives you more opportunities to get back to ground zero with your friends. So what I mean by that is if the seasons are shorter in length, then that next reset is going to be coming around sooner than it usually does. And I think it's fair to say, if you look anecdotally across the community, a lot of people tend to play a lot in that first 1, 2, or 3 weeks of the season, and then the participation levels really dip off like that first month, maybe like mid-season. You start to get to that lull. Gear's not coming in for upgrades as much. It's mainly about Paragon grind at that point. And I think that's when a lot of people tend to dip out of the season. So if you shorten the time between when that happens and the next season comes up, then I think you keep generating that excitement for the community to come back in and try the next season, and to get back to that, like I said, ground zero, that level zero. Everyone's on the same starting playing field, and there's always that hype around, oh man, that first weekend of the season, like how fast can we get going with our characters and stuff. So more opportunities to get that going, I think, per year or per cycle, however you want to look at it, would be an interesting approach to going to less weeks in a season. And then less time for the bots to do their work. If you think about how bots kind of play against players, they don't fatigue, right? Bots never stop working. And even though the Diablo devs did do some things to help out with fighting against bots at the beginning of season 13 that we're in right now, it looks like some of the developers out there have gotten their bots working again and such. So it's always going to be an ongoing war. I don't think either Blizzard or the bots will ever stop fighting the war. It'll go back and forth. But I guess in general, when I look at a shorter length of seasons, it gives the bots less of an advantage, because maybe a player will be able to focus their attention in for a solid 8 weeks, and if they want to go super hard and compete and try to fight the bots during an 8-week period, that's a little more manageable maybe, versus a 12 or a 13-week period where maybe by that 8 weeks you're just super burnt out or super fatigued, and the bots will still be going strong because they don't sleep, they don't need to. So I think maybe that's another approach to think about an alternative way to fight botting besides just, you know, changing infrastructure and trying to frustrate them from a like back end view. Maybe just the actual engineering of a season, civil engineering of it, I suppose, the way a season actually goes with 8 weeks could be good. So that's something to consider as well. And then I think, you know, just kind of keeping players interested, again, the motivation level. If you know kind of what the outset is, I think technically right now we do know, right? We know like it's going to be about 3 months. But if you can kind of look at it and say, all right, it's only 2 months, I can commit for 2 months, then maybe you'll see players stay in a lot longer. You know, again, trying to fight that dip when it's really hard for you to put a group together because everybody has kind of gone to play other games and such by the halfway point of a season. If that halfway point is just curtailed a little bit, or, you know, not as far from the end, then maybe that would help. Now the cons, there's gotta be cons for sure. I would say that maybe one of the things is that it won't feel as special, right? So whenever a seasonal reset comes in, for the same reason that it's very exciting for players, it could also stop being exciting if it's happening way too often, right? So if we end up moving from 4 seasons per year to like 6 seasons per year, then maybe there's a concern that now, you know, this season has, you know, a Marauder for the starter set for Demon Hunter. I don't really like Marauder, and I only want to play Demon Hunter. I'm just going to skip this season. And the fact that it's only 8 weeks, maybe you really will just skip a season because you know the next one's right around the corner. And maybe that honestly could even still be debated to be a good or a bad thing. Maybe it gives players some time to take a break if they want to and not feel like they have to sit out for too long because the next season's right around the corner. But at the same time, it also could engender this feeling of players being like, well, seasons are seasons, you know, they're just always coming around, so I don't have to play this one or I don't have to do that one. And maybe they just get into this mode where they skip them all together and stop playing. So I don't know, that's kind of one of the cons I thought of. There are probably more out there, and I want to definitely open up the discussion to all of you. Can you hop into the comments and think about how you feel about this? Would you like to see seasons be shortened? Do you think there's more pros than cons to it? Can you think of any more cons? Can you think of more pros that I didn't cover? I definitely want to hear from everybody and see where your thoughts are on this. How do you feel about the state of Diablo 3 in general right now too? I think it is fair to say things are slowing down, and it had to happen at some point because they're likely very hard at work on the next offering for us in the franchise. So let's get some communication and discussion going out there, and hopefully we can maybe make a change here. I don't know if this leads to shortening the seasons. Maybe it'll be an interesting experiment. Why not? What do we have to lose at this point? So thank you guys for listening and watching this video. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and check out all my other videos. There's lots of content here, and I will talk to you in the next one, which hopefully will not be long from this one. Adios for now.